I welcome you to this class, and we are going to be using these sessions to share some things together, and then I'll be sending them to you. I'll be sharing them with you so that they help you to revise and also to go through the course. So let me begin by sharing my screen. I'm going to share my screen, and we are actually talking about ecology, and we are going to have some of the lectures from here. This is a compilation of notes, and these notes are already available online. So, general ecology begins with defining the term ecology, and this term ecology is actually a branch of biological science. It is a branch of biological science which deals with the study of organisms in relation to their environment. It deals with the interactions. Ecology deals with the interrelationships between living organisms themselves, and also between living organisms and their physical or non-living environment. The latest definition, which was given by Krebs in 1985, is that ecology is the study of those interactions. It is the scientific study of interactions which determine the distribution and abundance of organisms. Ecology is defined by Krebs as a scientific study of interactions that determine the distribution and abundance of organisms in their environment. So, if we can trace for the origin of this word ecology, ecology comes from two Greek words. The first Greek word is oikos. That means a home, oikos. And then the second one is logos, which means knowledge or study of, search for knowledge. So the term originally was first coined by Ernest Haeckel in 1869. And Haeckel defined ecology as a study of organisms in their natural homes. The study of organisms in their natural homes. In 1963, Odum comes up with another definition that ecology is the study of the structure and function of nature. The study of the structure and function of nature, or the study of interrelationships between organisms and their environment. The study of interrelationships between organisms and their environment. So as I've already told you, that ecology is a branch of biology. It is a branch of biological science because it probes into the secrets of various levels of living organisms. From organismal level, ecology covers population level, where we are going to see that a population is a group of organisms belonging to the same species living in a defined area at a certain period, at a certain time. A group of organisms belonging to the same species living within a defined geographical area at a certain time. So that is a population. So the investigations, the ecological investigations at that level are known as population ecology. Then ecology progresses from population to community level. So we can have community ecology, where a community in this case are the organisms belonging to different populations, organisms belonging to different populations and therefore different species, but that are living in the same area, that are sharing the same habitat. In other words, a community is a biological unit or a biotic community. It's a biotic community, a group of organisms of different species, different populations, coexisting, living in the same area, living in the same geographical location, in the same geographical area. That one is a community. So investigations, ecological investigations at that level, where we are not only looking at organisms of one species, but here we are looking at all organisms belonging to different species, both above ground biological diversity and below ground biological diversity, interacting together as a unit, interacting together in the same geographical area. Those are called, that is called a community. That is called a community. And ecological investigations at that level form what we call the concept of community ecology. They form what we call the concept of community ecology. Still, we can go on to categorize ecology at the level of an ecosystem. We can categorize, we can study ecological interactions at the level of an ecosystem, where in this case, an ecosystem is a biotic community, a community of organisms, together with their physical environment, interacting together as a unit, interacting together, resulting, those interactions result in a stable self-supporting system. The interactions of the biotic community and the physical environment together results in a stable, self-supporting, self-perpetuating system. And that system remains stable from time to time in absence of human interference. In absence of human interference. So in this case, ecologists, that is the people who study these ecological interactions, people interested in ecological studies, ecological investigations, or ecological research. They research about plant ecology. They research about animal ecology. And these people are known as ecologists. So ecology and ecologists should be equipped with the knowledge from other branches of biology, such as knowledge from animal behavior, a branch of biology known as ethology. Ecologists should also be equipped with knowledge from physiology, which deals with the functioning of systems of the body, systems in the plant body or systems in an animal body, physiology. In other words, we can have physiological ecology. Physiological ecology. So if you are investigating how environmental conditions such as temperature, environmental conditions like water, environmental conditions like pH, soil pH, for example, salinity or salt concentration, how they affect plant life, how they affect the metabolic processes or physiological processes within a plant or within an animal. That branch of ecology is called physiological ecology. For example, if you are investigating the effect of temperature or the effect of light intensity on the rate of photosynthesis, then that ecological investigation, ecological study is known as physiological ecology. Physiological ecology. For what we've said, animal behavior, what we've talked about animal behavior, if we are investigating how habitat conditions, for example, affect the reproductive behavior, the mating behavior of an animal species, then that is called behavioral ecology. So ecology has got many other branches, for which reason we are saying that the study of ecology, and for that matter, ecologists, must be equipped with wide knowledge from other branches of biology, wide knowledge from physiology, for which reason they will be interested in physiological ecology, wide knowledge from behavior, animal behavior, for which reason they will be called behavioral ecologists. But we also need knowledge on conservation of animals, conservation of plants, conservation of biological diversity, for which reason such a study, such an ecological investigation, ecological study is known as conservation ecology. Conservation ecology. So we've got many other branches of ecology. If we are using the knowledge of evolution, if we are relating the knowledge from evolutionary science or evolutionary biology to explain ecological concepts, for example, we may be interested in investigating the geographical distribution of plants and animals across the world in different biogeographic regions, in different biogeographical regions. For example, you may be interested in finding out why a certain species of monkeys occurs in Africa, maybe the long-tailed monkeys, the red colobus monkeys, the red-tailed monkeys, the black and white monkeys, Colobus guereza, the blue monkeys. Why are they found on the African continent, in the African forests, but they are absent in South America, or they are absent in Europe, or in North America? Why are those species present here, but not in other continents across the world? So that kind of relation of ecological issues with the evolution, because an evolutionary biologist may bring in the concept of continental drift to explain that kind of distribution of animals and plants. They occur in Europe, but not in Africa. Some species occur in South America, but not in Africa. And an evolutionary biologist will bring in the concept of continental drift and other evolutionary issues. So ecology can also be related with evolution, and we call that branch of ecology evolutionary ecology. So I'm trying to show you that we have different types of ecology. So we can have evolutionary ecology, we can have behavioral ecology, we can have conservation ecology, we can have physiological ecology, like I've just shared with you. In other words, ecologists need to be familiar with the knowledge from other branches of science, from other branches of biology, to be able to explain or describe ecological phenomena. Here, you are seeing that ecologists must be equipped with a variety of instruments that will help them to determine the processes and energy transfer, plus cycling of elements in nature, what we call biogeochemical cycling. Biogeochemical cycling. Being a science, ecology uses specific tools and methodologies in order to obtain data, in order to support the hypotheses that are made in ecology. There are these basic ecological concepts or principles. Number one, that an ecosystem contains a network of interrelations of its parts. Just like we know about the systems theory, just like you've heard about the systems theory, ecology or ecosystem, an ecosystem is an integration. It is a sum of very many related parts or related units that work together to contribute to the structure and functioning of the ecosystem. So in this case, this principle, where an ecosystem is like any other system, bases on the systems theory to explain everything that occurs in the system, to explain the structure of an ecosystem and the functioning of an ecosystem. For example, we look at the biotic components. We also look at the abiotic components together, interacting together within an ecosystem and not separately. So this principle calls upon an explanation of the functions of an ecosystem, functions within an ecosystem as a sum of the interactions of the parts, of its parts. That is the systems theory. Then the interrelated network is inclusive of a structure that contains both the abiotic and biotic composition. Number 3, the networks present in the ecosystem has or have a control of energy flow and nutrient flow. And lastly, that energy from the sun is actually the primary source of all energy, the primary source of all energy that flows within an ecosystem, and which actually influences also the flow of nutrients. Ecologists seek explanations for the life processes in the environment and how organisms, how plants and animals are adapted to these life processes. Then ecologists are interested in the distribution and abundance of organisms. They are also interested in the movement of materials and energy through the biotic components of the ecosystem and also through the abiotic components of the ecosystem. Ecologists are also interested in what we call ecological succession, the successional stages of development, maybe from a bare rock where there is apparently no life, through different stages, like the stages of lichens, fungi, that form an organic matrix that attracts simple plants such as the mosses, the bryophytes, and later on the pteridophytes such as the ferns. And then succession proceeds through to stages of the herbs or the herbaceous plants, to the stage of shrubs, which are woody plants with woody stems, with small woody stems that cluster together, and those are called the shrubs. Then from the shrubs to trees or forests, and finally, when the forest, for example, is well established, it forms a climax community that is stable and that is resilient regardless of the external forces. So a movement from a bare rock with no living organism up to a stable, resilient climax community. that is called ecological succession. And if the succession starts from an area that has never been previously colonized, then that one is called primary succession. But if the succession developmental stages start from a previously colonized area, maybe it could be a burnt forest or a burnt grassland or a farmland or an agro ecosystem. If succession begins from a previously colonized area, then that one is a secondary succession. But ecologists are interested in successional development of ecosystems. And finally, they are interested in what we have said, the distribution and abundance of biological diversity within the environment. So as a result of these four basic principles of ecology, there are many other ecological concepts that have cropped up, that have emerged, such as the concept of habitat, which describes the specific area where an organism lives, the area occupied by plants and animals and other organisms. And within a habitat, we find a specific location. For example, the underneath of a rock or the underneath of a stone, where you will find some arthropods, where you will find certain annelids, segmented worms like the earthworms, terrestris, lumbricus, or lumbricus terrestris, and on the underneath of the stone, that is called a microhabitat. It has got specific conditions to which an organism is adapted, and without which it cannot survive. So whereas we can talk of a forest as being a habitat, but the specific location within the forest, such as the underneath of a stone or a particular area, maybe the leaf litter on the forest floor, where you'll find the arthropods, such as the millipedes, the centipedes, the mites, where you'll find the earthworms below the leaf litter. That one is the microhabitat. So the concept of population, I've already defined it. I've also defined the concept of community and the concept of ecosystem. But there is also another concept which we call a territory, which is somehow related to the study of animal behavior, ethology. But in this case, a territory is that specific part of the habitat which is defended by an organism, which is defended by a species, which is defended by an organism for its resources. The resources in that area, like the mates, the feeds, the space, are defended against any intruders, against any strangers. So this is territoriality is mainly an animal behavior, that an organism will defend a territory. It is mainly the males, the male organisms. The male organisms defend a part of a habitat and guard the resources they are in. Resources like food, space, the mates, against intruders, against invaders, against strangers. That is known as territoriality. As we've already seen, the scope of studying ecology ranges from organism ecology to population ecology to community ecology to ecosystem ecology. It can go up to landscape ecology and global ecology, where in this case, the Earth is looked at as the largest ecosystem if we are talking about global ecology. And the discussion at that level, the ecological discussion at that level, brings in a variety of international actors, such as the UN and other global associations or global bodies. And the issues, ecological issues being discussed at that level of global ecology are transboundary, they are international, they cross boundaries of nations. For example, we may talk about global ecological issues such as climate change and global environmental problems such as nuclear radiations, nuclear energy, and nuclear radiations. This is why discussions about climate change, about nuclear energy, are held at higher levels. Discussions about pandemics such as COVID-19, they are held at global levels, maybe at the level of United Nations or World Health Organizations, where leaders of states meet together to pave a way forward, to pave solutions for global environmental issues or global environmental problems. So ecology could be studied at a local level, at a national level, and at an international level. We have two main subdivisions of ecology. If we are looking at individual organisms of one species, if we are looking at how they relate, how an organism relates with its environment, if you are looking at the ecophysiology and environmental physiology and the other ecological issues about individual organisms or organisms of one species, then we call that ecology. But if we are looking at organisms that belong to different species, that is, if we are looking at a community of organisms, then that ecological study is known as synecology. Synecology. So, studies in terrestrial ecosystems like forests, terrestrial ecosystems like deserts and grasslands, woodlands, bushland, all those are terrestrial ecosystems. There we actually discussing community ecology. If we are looking at interactions in aquatic ecosystems like rivers, aquatic ecosystems like ponds, lakes, and even oceans, seas, the interactions they are in, discussed at the level of synecology. Of course, we are aware that aquatic ecosystems could be marine ecosystems or freshwater ecosystems or brackish ecosystems. Whatever aquatic system we are looking at, the discussions there are at a level of synecology. There is this concept which we call the concept of translate, which is about the divergence between otecology and synecology. I mean bringing synecology and otecology together, bringing ecological studies that focus on individual organisms, and then ecological studies that focus on communities. And the concept states that all organisms are interacting with one another and also with the biotic elements of the environment in an interrelated system. This is analogous to the systems theory, which I've already told you that within the systems theory, all interactions among the different units in the system, they contribute to the functioning or to the interactions of the system as a whole. So from this concept, we are not looking at interactions of individual organisms, but we are looking at interactions of all organisms, regardless of the species to which they belong. I've already hinted on this, that ecology could be studied at individual level, at population level, community level, and ecosystem level. And those are the basic units of ecology. Moving on, if we look at the individual level of studying ecology, there is this concept which we need to understand, the concept of ecological niche, which was put forward by Hutchinson in 1957. And Hutchinson defines a niche, an ecological niche, as a set of biotic and abiotic conditions in which a species is able to persist and maintain a stable population size. So I would say that an ecological niche here, or the niche concept, focuses on where an organism lives, that is its habitat, its address. In the words of Hutchinson, the niche is the address where an organism lives and what it does there, the profession, its profession, its role. So the concept of niche describes both the habitat of an organism and its role in that habitat. For example, the organism may be described not only by where it lives, but also what it does there. Is the organism a pollinator? Is the organism a decomposer? Is the organism a grazer or a browser? Is the organism a model or a mimic? Is the organism a prey or predator? What is the role of the organism in the habitat where it is found? In that case, we use the term ecological niche to describe where an organism exists and what it does there. If we are looking at the large potential niche of an organism, if we are looking at the large potential niche of an organism, a set of all environmental conditions where that organism exists, and the habitat, the entire habitat that it can exploit in absence of its competitors and predators, then that niche is described as the fundamental niche or the potential niche. The fundamental niche or the potential niche. We are looking at the environmental conditions, the entire habitat that can potentially be exploited, that can be occupied by an organism. In absence of its competitors, in absence of its predators, then that one is called the potential niche or the fundamental niche. However, in the presence of an organism's competitors and maybe predators, the niche of an organism will be compressed to a smaller area or a smaller part of the habitat where it can effectively exploit the environmental resources. Remember, in the absence of the competitors and predators, an organism can potentially exploit all resources within that habitat. And we are describing the fundamental niches or environmental conditions, set of environmental conditions under which species is able to persist. But when we bring in the competition factor and predation factor, then the niche of an organism is compressed to a smaller part of the entire habitat of the potential, a smaller part of the potential of fundamental niche. So in this case, the realized niche is a set of environmental and ecological conditions, set of ecological conditions under which a species persists, the presence of competitors and predators. So ecologists determine the nature of an organism by looking at what that organism feeds on and its sources of energy, but also the rate of metabolism and rate of growth of that organism, because we have like higher plants and animals have a slow rate of growth compared to the lower ones. But also the effect on other organisms. Is it competing? Is it a decomposer? Is it a grazer? What is its role? Okay, we've already described the concept of the habitat, and now population ecology. Population ecology, as I've already indicated, is concerned with a group of organisms of the same species that lives in the same area, interacts with one another in the same area, and may migrate. That is, there could be immigration, the movement of organisms from other areas to an area, or emigration, movement of organisms from one area to another area. So all of those concepts which are described by population ecology. Population ecologists are also interested in what we call the population dynamics. The population dynamics, that is, increases in population size or decreases in population size of members of a species. For example, if there is increased birth and increased immigration, then the population will increase. There will be increased population size. But if death or mortality and emigration are greater than birth or natality and immigration, then there will be population decrease. So to understand population dynamics, we need to look at the natality or birth and immigration, which result in population increase, and also death or mortality and emigration, which result in population decrease. But these dynamics which lead to increase or decrease in population size, birth and immigration, plus death or mortality and immigration, have been shown to be naturally regulated by a negative feedback mechanism, a homeostatic control process. For which reason, the population of any species in any area, in any habitat, will always remain approximately constant from time to time. From time to time. That is to say, there is a tendency of migration, of immigration and birth balancing with emigration and death or mortality in a naturally or a homeostatically controlled process, in a homeostatically controlled mechanism. For example, when the birth rate in any population increases, beyond the carrying capacity, if there is increased birth rate or increased immigration, beyond the carrying capacity, forces what we call corrective measures are set in place, are set in motion. Corrective measures are set in motion. They are triggered to check on the increased population size beyond the carrying capacity. In other words, death will set in as a result of environmental resistances, such as food scarcity, space scarcity, nutrient limitation, diseases resulting from overcrowding or rapid transmission of infections, of infestations that will lead to increased mortality or emigration. And the many members of that species, many individuals will die. Many individuals will emigrate, resulting in the restoration of the population size back to the carrying capacity, back to the norm or the set point for that population, back to a figure around the carrying capacity. So in this case, we are defining the term carrying capacity as that optimum population size or level that can be optimally supported, that can be effectively supported by environmental resources at any time. So beyond the carrying capacity, if there is a population boom, for example, a sudden rise in population size, corrective measures, forces will be set in place. Environmental resistances will come in to check that increased population beyond the current capacity care. In other words, I'm trying to show you that in a population ecology, we are also interested in how, in explaining how the population size of organisms is naturally controlled, is naturally regulated by a homeostatic control mechanism, which we call negative feedback. For today, I will encourage you to go and read about organismal ecology and population ecology, focusing on population dynamics and how the level or how the population size is controlled read about population growth rate, population limiting factors, and the issues of population dispersion. Look at the concept of carrying capacity. Look at what we call random dispersion, clumped dispersion, and regular or even dispersion of populations. And that is where we will begin from next time. But don't forget that it is also important for you to master the definition of terms like a biome, a biogeographic region, a population, a community, ecosystem, and all those others that we've covered in this lesson. Thank you very much. God bless you. We shall resume next time. As I've already shared with you, this recording will be sent to you to enable you do the revision. You can rewind it now and again. Thank you very much. I wish you the best.